Hello everyone, welcome to this message. So as our first card today, we get the Himself card, um, which definitely is like that stance of like trying to remain yourself, right? And then we have Tabara of the Waters and the Singer of Transfiguration, which comes next, which actually gives a really clear message immediately. And then we have these two cards. So what I immediately found fascinating is that this is actually a vegetable, right? And I added underneath rarity because the logic behind that is that I rarely eat this kind of vegetable, hence, it is a rare occasion, it is a rare consumption. And we have and these wands here on the Five of Wands looks a little bit like that vegetable, right? So it could be that this is talking about a rare occasion that you that you rarely that there are rare occasions of you getting into a conflict or you having to defend your views, for example, or that there is some kind of a competitive nature in the dynamic with another person. So it could also be an indicator of that, right? That there is if you had like a moment where you had to stand up for your viewpoints, right, or for your personal views in quite a strong way, for example, that this is actually because there was an underlying competitive dynamic between you and this person. And yeah, that there is a reason, right? A reason why that is the case. So I think it talks about that, right? Because the Wands talks about differing viewpoints, competition, and drama, right? So, so these kinds of things are quite likely very rare occasions that this happens in your life, and I think it is just to make it clear to you that there is some kind of an underlying competition, underlying competitive vibe between the two of you. And then we have this Himself card, right? So I do think that it makes it hard for you um, to really stay yourself, right? So maybe you had to quite literally defend yourself. So, which is another way of saying competition, right? So if you have to quite strongly stand up for yourself, right? Quite strongly um, express your viewpoints to another in a kind of you versus me kind of stance, right? Like where you really have to um, where there is a little bit of a battle going on, right? That the real reason why this is happening is on the one hand there is this competitive dynamic from the other person towards you, and there what is also happening is that you are just trying to stay yourself, and this person is perhaps overriding that self, right? Is is so strongly seeking to override that self that you have to like start defending yourself. So there's a reaction, a counter reaction there as well. So so if this happened, right? If there was like this competitive like if there was a conflict, right? Like if there was a situation where you had to quite strongly express your viewpoints, and this being a very rare occasion for you, and maybe there was some drama perhaps here, then this what is actually happening here is that there is an underlying dynamic of competition from the other person towards you, and there is this sense of a battle going on and you having to stay yourself, right? You having to defend yourself to stay yourself. Um, and yeah, let's see what comes next, right? So this next card here, the Bar of the Waters, has to do with your reflection, right? So there's something about like because this always looks to me like with the hands, like when you're looking at reality, that you are seeing a reflection of yourself. So it's very similar to, for example, like when you look into a pool or something, and like only the pool being reality in this case. And like normally, if you look at a pool, you should see a reflection of yourself in that pool, right? But there is something that is happening that is forcing another reflection, right? So it could be something like projection or something like that you are looking at the water and you are seeing something that isn't you, a reflection that isn't you. You have to accept that reflection, although it isn't you, right? So there's something about perhaps someone distorting who you are, seeking to control you, perhaps as well, because it sounds a little bit like control, right? And but it goes farther than that, because if you were to accept that reality, you would be accepting you would be seeing another reality around yourself. So that's kind of like you would stop being in alignment with yourself, with your own frequency, and you would start to becoming into alignment with the control, the projection, the image that you are force fed to see yourself as, for example, right? So yeah, it's kind of like forcing in. It's more than forcing you to see yourself in a different way. It is forcing another reality upon you, right? So it's quite intense what is happening here. Um, and then you have the singer of transfiguration. And the singer of transfiguration has to do with it's a little bit like a phoenix, right? A revealing as well, because transfiguration is that moment where Jesus revealed his divinity, right? So where it became clearly visible to the world in a sense. And so maybe like you are starting to heal, because I'm getting like this number 17, right? You are on your path, strongly on your path, very much in alignment with your own frequency, and you would like to stay aligned with that frequency, hold that frequency. And because you are starting to heal yourself, getting back into alignment with yourself, and also the destiny that is connected to that. So you're not just defending your own frequency, your own self, your own alignment, but also your destiny as well. And yeah, this has to do with like the reflection that you see is that like you starting to show your divinity would be that like starting to show who you are, right? Starting to show yourself clearly. Um, So also maybe it has something to do with like the outside world starting to reflect who you actually are. So the outside world was slowly starting to reflect who you are in a sense, but you are healing, right? You are so it has to do with like coming back to yourself, having found that self again, like having to defend it fiercely, to defend that alignment with yourself, which is kind of like alignment with yourself. You could also see it as when I look into the outside world, I'm starting to see my own reflection in that world. That world is starting to reflect my frequency. It's starting to reflect who I am, right? So and you are seeking to defend that. You need to defend that, really, that alignment, and that and as a result, the world you see around yourself that is a reflection of that. Um, which but you're at the beginning stages of that. You've just come out of a situation. You are still healing from that situation, so you have only just come back to yourself, and you have to fiercely defend that self, right? That alignment. um so yeah, there's something about that. And a phoenix, you could also see it as a phoenix in terms of like a death and a rebirth. So you are being reborn again, but like you are being reborn as yourself, right? So and then we have the journeyman. So this is like someone who is leaving a toxic situation behind. The devil as well, something that has something to do with the devil, but number 15, right? So yeah, you're leaving something toxic behind, and you are moving into the fairy guide. So the fairy guide is like this new, this fresh new page in your life, a page that could become anything really, right? So it's kind of like, okay, I'm ending this chapter. I have this fresh new page in my life, this fresh new slate, and what would I like to create upon that slate, right? So you have an opportunity to a fresh new slate to begin again. Um, yeah, to move into something that is in alignment with you, right? A reflection of you, in alignment of you, and it could also have something to do with your light, right? Because the thing of transfiguration is the revealing of Jesus' light, right, to the world, which showed his divinity, right? So there's something about that you shining your light, that you have the ability now that you are aligning with your own frequency to start shining your light again, which will be uh, creating a fresh new page for you, a fresh new slate for you. So you are leaving a toxic situation behind, and you're starting to move into a fresh new slate experience that will be much more a reflection of you. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I immediately actually want to go like that. So you are in alignment with yourself, and like as a result of you being in alignment with yourself, you are leaving behind anything that's toxic to you, right? So, but it will require some fighting on your part to make that a reality, because you are still healing from this situation, and yeah, this is like you starting to see reflection, a reflection of who you are. As you are looking into reality, you will be seeing a fresh new slate. You may be seeing light, right? So if you would be looking into the pool of reflection, maybe you would see a seriously bright light, or you could see a fresh new page, a fresh new slate in your life. um, and that is what you will start to see reflected back to you. That's your true reality, you could say. So you are starting to see the true reality of things, and then this rare occasion of having to defend your viewpoints, right, arose. And there's also something perhaps about the rarity of who you are, because before we pull this card, we like it also connects to this in and of itself, right? So it could be that you have a very rare frequency, and you are defending the rarity of who you are, the uniqueness of who you are. And I also think that this person was attacking the uniqueness of who you are, the rarity of who you are. So you had to defend yourself. You had to defend yourself in terms of that you are allowed to be unique, that you are allowed to be a rare frequency, someone who thinks differently, who feels differently, who perceives the world differently, perhaps, right? So there's something about that you are seeking to heal yourself, to come back to that rare frequency, that rare way of seeing things, perhaps, right? That this, maybe it could also be your rare view upon the world, because if you look at it like that, this could be like your this rare, very rare view that you are seeing upon the world. You are looking at the world in a very unique way. You have a unique interpretation, unique thoughts, unique feelings, unique experiences as you are looking at the world. And there's something about it. This person was not respectful of the unique way you are seeing the world, your unique internal life, for example, right? So you had to defend that, because that's pretty much what it is. Like you are having to defend the rare way you are seeing the world, and Think of transfiguration. The way you are seeing the world. There's something about that you showed yourself clearly. So you showed who you are very clearly to the world, to this person, right? So you showed yourself very, very clearly to this person. And this person had no respect for the rarity of who you are, in the sense of that you have a very rare way of seeing the world. And there was like this competition of viewpoints in terms of that. Let's see. So it pertains to that, of course, right? That you have to defend yourself against, that you have just come out of a toxic situation, probably where you weren't allowed to be yourself, right? So where also that uh, rare way of seeing the world was being attacked. Yeah, where all that also that rare way of seeing the world was being attacked. So it kind of like reminds you of the toxic situation you just left behind, right? Which you are still healing from. So, which could be like, for example, like judgment, right? But what is this actually? What this actually is that you have dealt with people who are disrespectful, who are challenging, who are opposing, who are in competition with, and there's also a competitive vibe that's underneath that, with your unique way of seeing the world. So you open up, you are vulnerable towards a person about who you truly are. So you reveal yourself very clearly, like this is who I am. And then you are challenged in those viewpoints. You like, but not in a sense like I would like to understand where you are coming from, or that there is a discussion in the sense of I see it this way, you see it that way, and there's like an intellectual discussion or something. No, this is a controlling discussion. This is a discussion in terms of you are going to accept my viewpoints. You need to digest my viewpoints, my way of seeing things, and yeah, there was something about that. That's what is happening here, truly happening here, and this is a reflection of what you have just come out of, right? So it's kind of like this person is not accepting you for who you are, and especially in your unique way of seeing the world, your unique internal life, your unique experience, your unique way of seeing the world, quite literally, right? um, So this is not a respectful conversation. This is an overriding and overruling, right? So it's not like like these two different viewpoints are on equal measure. This is one person saying you are going to accept my viewpoints. I'm going to override your viewpoints, and you do not get to be yourself. I'm going to be overriding you, pretty much your internal life, your personal experience. And so let's see. So the buyer of the world. So this is the way, your unique way of seeing the world. So maybe you also see the world um, from a fresh new page, right? So maybe you are able to see the world without preconception, probably, right? So you are able to see the world without preconception, and there's something about that this previous situation did not accept that you were seeing the world from a place without preconception, like preconceived notions, judgment. You could see that as well, right? So you were seeing the world without judgment or without preconceived notions, and so in a very pure way, you could say, in a very open-minded, fresh, like daring to be yourself, right? So that's pretty much this, right? Daring to be yourself, showing yourself very vulnerably, very clearly. And that's what is happening here. And this is also what is seeking to be overruled, in a sense. And then we have this one here. So we have Geo the Slow. So this is like someone who is observing, right? Who is an outside observer of reality. So you were, for example, this could pertain to you observing the world around you. And you are showing yourself very clearly in a sense that how you are observing the world around you. So maybe you said to someone, like, this is how I uniquely see the world around me. This is how when I see the world, like, this is what is going on in my internal life. This is what I'm observing. This is what's going on inside of me. And there was zero respect of that. Like, there was an overruling of that, even, which definitely reminds you of the situation you have just come out of, right? Where there was also a dynamic like that. And then you have the Sylvanius card as the underlying energy. So this is like masks off, right? And also the light being revealed. So this is like you showing yourself very clearly, like, this is who I am, and it also not wearing a mask. So it means, like, a mask to me is not just like showing yourself as the person that you actually are without any kind of distortion there, right? So, like, no masks on. Like, this is, it's just like you take the mask off and like you are yourself, right? So this, of course, as this relates to being yourself, but it's more than that, because for me a mask is like a lens you look through. And like, so you you discard the lens that you were supposed to look through, right? So for example, I'm not going to look through your lens. I have my own lens, right, to look through. I'm not going to look through the lens of judgment or preconceived notions. I'm looking at the world in a very pure way, that is a reflection of who I am as well, right? So it's quite personal. And like, so through your observations, right? So you shared very personal observations concerning what is going on inside yourself, your internal life, as it relates to how you are observing reality. So it's a very personal, very vulnerable experience, you could say. And then you are met with this very competitive dynamic, a very controlling and very competitive dynamic, where there is no respect, no acceptance for a different opinion. And but you were showing yourself very clearly, right? You're showing that you are looking at the world without preconceived notions, in a very personal way that is not colored by a societal lens, right? So, and then we have uh, this card here, which is like this lettuce, this romaine lettuce is, or is it cabbage? It could also be Chinese cabbage. So it like kind of looks like Chinese cabbage. You could also see it as lettuce. But there's something like, this is a cabbage because of what is underneath. It says uh, to like achievement and success. So you've achieved something, you were successful. So there's something about that, you being able um, to show yourself very clearly that you were able to do that. To that, it's quite a success, right? It's quite an achievement, you could say, to um, to show yourself as the person that you actually are. To show that it's quite an achievement, it's quite a success to be able to dare to still express your unique way of seeing the world, your internal life, right? That is very different from the public opinion, from the usual way of seeing things, from the societal way of seeing things. That's very colored by um, societal viewpoints, I guess, right? It's colored by a lot of things. And for you to even be able to show that in an environment like that is where you are completely not accepted, and there's zero respect for your unique viewpoints, right? For who you are, pretty much in a sense, which is just something that will be overruled, right? So if you show this is how I uniquely see the world, and this is something that you will have to defend yourself about for, because that is not accepted, right? To have your own way of seeing the world is not accepted and is going to be overruled as well, right? So it's quite strong. And here we have judgment, right? So you were met with judgment quite literally again. So you are coming out of a place of judgment, but a very controlling, very overruling kind of judgment, where it's a judgment of you are going to accept my viewpoints, and in the sense not like being open-minded to my viewpoints. No, you're going to accept them as your own, right? So there's a difference there. There's a controlling aspect there. And you have the evil eye. So it has to do with people who do not have positive intentions towards you, who have a secret competition towards you, a secret jealousy towards you. So it's not coming from a good place, right? So, and you had to deal with this again, right? So, and it also has to do with your third eye, right? Because your third eye is the way you see the world, you could say. You see the world based on your frequency as well, in a sense, right? So, you see the world from who you are, and there is perhaps even a jealousy in terms of how you see the world, how uniquely, how rarely you see the world. There's something, there's a judgment of that, but there is also a competitive, the competition of that. Like, I'm going to overrule your way of seeing things. It's kind of like you have to accept this narrative, right? So let's see. So it's in direct competition with who you are, pretty much, because if something is in direct competition with your internal life, there's no acceptance of your internal life. Your internal life has to be overruled. You don't get to see the world from your own interpretation, from your own views, from your own like literal observations and what's going on inside of you. That's quite strong, right? That's an acceptance, not a non-acceptance of who you are. And then you have like uh, this says like it's like a bowl of dates, and it says to be like cozily together, right? So the idea of being cozy and being together. So maybe you wanted to be having a moment where you were together and you were having a very nice and cozy experience, right? A very warm experience of being together. But and I do think what God wants to say is like you did not ruin that. The other person ruined that, right? Ruined that by not allowing you to be yourself and being so disrespectful of how you see the world, right? Like if someone is vulnerable, and I noticed that like when it's kind of like people who suppress who they are, right? They are the biggest judges of you in a sense, um, which is kind of strange because they have suppressed themselves, and then like when you are vulnerable and you are expressing yourself as you are, then there is this non-acceptance of that. So it's kind of fascinating, and it is quite strong because it's kind of like you have to suppress yourself too, in a sense, right? And then we have the hanged man. So the hanged man means that you are like also that this has to do with the hanged man is like someone who can look at things from a different perspective, right? So there's something here about that you cannot look at things from a different perspective, that you are judged if you look at things from a different perspective, and that you are stuck there in a sense. You are stuck in not being in So maybe there's something about that you wanted to have a cozy time together, like a nice time together, but because you were not allowed to have your own internal life experience of this world, there is no respect for vulnerable moments, you could say. That will become quite difficult to do, right? Because you are not allowed to look at things from a different perspective. And maybe that's where you got stuck, right? So maybe you got stuck in that situation. So you could have gotten stuck in this competitive vibe here, right? Like where you had to defend yourself, but there's also a good reason why you have to defend yourself. So if you don't defend yourself, you could say, then you would be losing yourself, right? That it's like you standing up for, you're still healing from a situation of judgment before, and you're merely trying to be yourself, right? So you're trying to be yourself, and there's an attack on that trying to be yourself, and then you get stuck on you got stuck there because there was no acceptance of any other viewpoint except for the viewpoint of this person, you could say, right? So you didn't ruin the cozy moment. That was not you didn't do that. This person did that by actually being so controlling, you could say. So I'm wishing you a very beautiful day ahead, and bye bye.